Hello, I'm Riley Watson, and today I would like to present my Chautauqua Colloquium entitled Comedy, Outrageous or Reasonable? What defines comedy? To some people, it can be as simple as a setup and a punchline, while to others, it can be looking at the world around them in a satirical fashion. I want to take you back to 13th century Italy, where comedy has taken the form of sonnets and poems, and the two most popular poets are Cecco Angiolieri and Rustico Filippi. Both men wrote in similar styles and were popular in their own fields. Now, the way they wrote was in a particular form of anger and ridicule. And the question I would like to impose on the audience today is whether or not these writings actually had a reason behind them. Were they ridiculous just to be ridiculous, or was there some underlying meaning they were trying to get at? Now, Riley, I assume you're thinking to yourself, how does poetry relate to theater? Well, I'm actually glad I wrote down that question to appear more prepared, because it isn't really a question of theater, it is a question of comedy. Comedy is a very performance-heavy art form, and as Sebastian Coxon puts, quote, "Performance is essential for laughter," end quote. How else is a comedian supposed to know if a joke is a hit or a miss? How else am I supposed to know that this Chautauqua Colloquium is going well? For Cecco Angiolieri, his writings were generally sought after in taverns. His poems were seen as aggressive. Fabian Alfi saw that, quote, "His laughter represents the cruel reaction to the news of someone's suffering," end quote. Another look at Angiolieri's writings can be thought of as strictly a question of style and not as a question of humor. There is only one sonnet Alfi discovered that even alluded to the reader's laughter. Quote, "In that sonnet, Cecco describes his poverty as so dire that he has pawned his laughter, and he concludes by saying that he would kill whoever laughed," end quote. Many writers during the Middle Ages adhered to certain traits when it came to writing comedies. Notably, those traits were the ones that are not found in tragedies. Quote, "Comedies were fictive stories dealing with low-born individuals, written in a low or middling style, many with unique viewpoints, and with a plot structure that begins in chaos but resolves in the establishment of order," end quote. The style of comedy back then never truly hinted at laughter being the end result, which is odd to think about, since nowadays you can laugh till you're in tears at a 6-second video or a picture of a cat in a sombrero. So it goes back to the question of, are these writings meant to be funny? Or was this man just very vocal about what he hated in the world? Our other author, Rustico Filippi, on the other hand, has been discussed among scholars as invective. Palazzo defines the word as, quote, "the practice of verbally insulting, attacking, and ridiculing an individual, group, city, or institution," end quote. Filippi wrote his pieces over political and social issues that were plaguing Italy at the time, giving a voice to the common man in a humorous way. The application of humor towards public issues requested the reader to look deeper into the invective style and examine the application of laughter to it. In other words, he wants to have people think to themselves, why is this funny? Creating a dialogue between the author and the reader. Palazzo says, quote, "Invective offers a wide range of poetic expression that often contain both biographical and historical references in such dimensions as interpersonal social relations, civic chaos, violence, wars, and current political religious tensions," end quote. Showing that anything can be made fun of and mocked is exactly what comedians are doing today. They take the worst out of our society, they flip it around, and they make a joke about it. If I had to put these two writers into a modern context, Angiolieri would be the guy who's just kind of screaming and hollering at people just to get a rise out of them, while Filippi is the hard-working comedian, the one who's trying to create a dialogue between him and the audience over something they disagree on. Now, both men are funny in their own right, but I have to agree with Palazzo in this debate. Filippi's writings were pieces of political satire that served as a needed mockery for the public. He wrote about issues that people knew about, and making his writings more relevant and overall more important. In the end, though, humor is very subjective. What is funny to me may not be funny to you. But you want to know who says that? People who aren't funny.